This is Negotiate X TV.
All right. Today's question is, how do you know when you've reached the best outcome in a negotiation? And so I'm going to kick this straight over to you, Aram. How do you know when you've reached that best outcome for a negotiation?
Yeah, it's a tough question, and it's going to really vary based on your level of preparation. That's going to be so important. Let me start by just telling the story. For anyone who's watching the video clip, you're going to notice my little holiday Lego sets behind me, right? So we're still kind of wrapping up from a great holiday season, and my oldest daughter, right before the holidays, came home after school. They had done a white elephant exchange, and she was very excited to share with me what she had gotten during the white elephant exchange. And she pulls out this nice little container of like the sour candy, like this on a like a tape. It was like a tape thing, rope thing. And I was like, "Oh, that's cool, right?" And she knows that I like kind of sour gummy candy. You got to have your lickies and chewies, right, Nolan? So anyways, then I was like, well, that's great. And she said, well, she goes, I did walk away when it was all said and done. I had walked away with a set of Bluetooth speakers. And I'm like, really? Okay, so how did you end up with this candy? She goes, well, my friend who had the candy doesn't really like candy and really wanted the Bluetooth speakers. And I'm thinking to myself, well, of course she did. And so my daughter says, so I traded her. And I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Oh, okay." And so she looked at me because she said tell a little I had a little doubt, and she goes, "Well, I didn't know what I was gonna do with them anyways." And I said, "Well, they would have connected to your iPod." I said, "A nice set of Bluetooth speakers can be worth something. I think you would have enjoyed them." And she was very disappointed. She goes, "Well, I knew you liked this candy, and I thought that maybe, if we watch Hawkeye over the holidays, we can share this, and won't that be a kind of a fun moment?" And she goes, "And I just didn't really, I usually listen to music with my headphones on." And then so there's this pause, and I'm like, "Okay," right? Because in my mind, I'm doing the economic calculation that no matter how good this candy is, it's probably still not economically worth, you know, a set of Bluetooth speakers. And so she looks at me and she goes, "Did I make the wrong choice?" And it's really to the essence of this question, do I know I've reached the very best outcome? And I said, "Oh, honey," I said, "you know what? It sounds like your interests were doing something nice for your friend, having, a nice treat that you and I could enjoy together, having something that had a great utility to you." Um, I said, I talk to my students about this all the time. I said, if that's your measure of success and you feel like you fulfilled that as well as you could have, then you should have no regrets about the decision you made. Um, and so that's where we went. But it's really at the essence of this question.
I bet you felt bad for questioning it at first, at least.
Yeah, it was
What a thoughtless thing that she did. So super nice. So.
right. Yeah, right. True, true. And remember though, this is one of those this is where this kind of we get ourselves into a trap is that she's got to find somebody who's going to buy those for her. As much as I think Bluetooth speakers are worth, I wasn't going to buy them. So she's got to find somebody who's going to buy them from her. Then she's got to go, acquire the candy on her own and whatever, buy 5 or 10 or whatever and find out where it is. Which I probably guess where the person got it. Now that we think about it a little bit, so that may, but there's still some legwork involved, right? So it's not necessarily, a simple exchange. Now all of a sudden there's a little bit more effort involved, and you've got to find a buyer. At the end of all of it, she could, be selling the speakers, and so this is where second guessing ourselves and everything can be real damaging. And I think it's helpful if we have, kind of like I encouraged her, just some simple guidelines. Hey, what were your interests? What were some different ways you could have solved it? Did you do the things around relationship and communication that you really wanted to do? And if so, walk away feeling good. Say it was a fair, creative solution.
Although I think podcast speaker or Bluetooth speakers probably could have bought 10 of those candies, but it's still very nice.
Well, thanks. And anyone who's listened to us for a little bit will know that, sometimes we talk parenting. I got into a shortage of those sort of stories, but I think that's the power of, the approach that we talk about is hopefully it makes us better in all aspects of our walk, right? Whether it's professionally, in complex, supplier, client, customer negotiations, or it's at home and in our toughest personal negotiations too. Hopefully it helps us do a better job of those things.
Yeah. I mean, that's all you can ask for at the end of the day. So definitely a good lesson for her to dig through that. And I think it's a good lesson for any parents out there that, the same thing that you had already brought up is, although economically to you may not make the most sense, but however, when you really dig into the interests and the reasons we negotiate, then you really figure out why or what's important to them. So I think that's an awesome story.
Yeah, you said, it really does start with what were my interests. And that's what I told my oldest, right? It sounds like your interests were these things. So, what are your motivations, fears, needs, and concerns? And have you solved for those things? If you go into a negotiation with a positional mindset, you've unlikely really thought at that kind of deeper level about your concerns, about what's going to keep you up at night. We talked about, episode ago about what's going to impact or potentially impact any sort of implementation as you get into, enacting an agreement. So I think you gotta start there. And the more interest you can uncover, kind of the more work that the more kind of pieces you have to negotiate around. And so I think understanding those interests are the first piece as building blocks. And again, I've got these Lego sets behind me. You can't build a lot with one or two Lego bricks. You can build a heck of a lot more with 50, 100, or more Lego bricks. And it allows you more room to get creative. So that's one of the reasons we really want to know what our interests are and be really clear about them, as well as understanding what the other party's concerns are. And that's going to be a measure of success for us. How well did we satisfy those things?
Yeah. So kind of going back to the question here is determining, the best outcomes. And I think we really got to take it back to probably interest is where I'd kind of start this one out, Aram, is, well, have we determined if our interests have been met, right? Because interests are the reasons we negotiate, and options is what we can do to make sure that we answer those interests. So kind of digging back into this, how do you think, where do we start for determining the best outcome if we've reached a negotiation?
Yeah, right. And if you think about it, there's so many reasons for that, right? One is the room for creativity is greater if we have more interest on the table, yours and mine. Going back to the question we had last podcast around implementation. Well, greater chance that they're going to join us in effective implementation if they can see and experience their own interest getting satisfied. And then, kind of number three would be, is that the relationship is going to be improved, which is often an interest of the parties too, if we've satisfied their interests in the process.
Hey, thanks for checking out this video on Negotiate X TV. If you found any value at all, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification icon if you want to be notified of future videos. And then we also have a couple videos over here that you might be interested in checking out. If you and your small business, your team are looking to get negotiations or leadership training, then you can head over to negotiatex.com and learn more about the coaching services we offer. Thanks, and I'll see you over the next video.